Good morning, afternoon, evening, wherever you are, and welcome to Nerd Tube. And it is Star Trek time. Strange New Worlds, to be more precise, as well as a big fat dollop of Orville. I'm here with cousin Cheeto. How you doing?
Doing great. Excited to talk about today's episodes.
And of course, Major Rage. How you doing?
I'm doing awesome. Excited to talk about tonight's Strange New Worlds.
Wonderful. So let's get it going. Before we do, let's quickly just check on the chat here. We have Daniel Vance saying, "I have never listened to anyone who criticized my taste in space travel, sideshows, or gorillas. When this occurs, I pack up my dinosaurs and leave the room." Ray Bradbury, Zen in the Art of Writing. Oh, what an interesting thing to say. Yes, NerdTube unite. We should all like get our fists together and stuff like that. Anyways, all right, so this is the Elysian King. This was an episode I noticed that didn't have any subplots. A little bit at the beginning, but once the main story got going, it was pretty much focusing on one particular character throughout the whole episode. So it's unusual not to get an episode with subplots, but nevertheless, it's not the end of the world either. Far from it. It's just a different way of storytelling, so to speak. So, before we start talking about Elysian King, first of all, cousin Cheetah, what do you think of this episode?
I do want to put an asterisk on what you said about it being very fun. I really feel like that this was an Mbega. It was definitely an Mbega episode, but it was also a Hemmer episode. Like, not so much Hemmer, but we got enough Hemmer in this. And plus, he obviously gave us a little bit of background on him and stuff like that. So I feel like there was a decent amount of that in there. I absolutely love this episode. It felt a little cheesy and not in a bad way, but with the set dressings and stuff like that. Like, it felt like they just threw up all this stuff and they were just like, it almost feels like they were like trying to save money on set design and they just dressed up the ship rather than everything else.
I felt that.
but I felt like it worked. I don't know why, but I felt like it worked. So I really, really, really enjoyed this episode. Go ahead, Mage.
The campiness of the set felt very TOS to me, and I thought it was a nice touch. I think they might have done it intentionally, just to make it reminiscent. I mean, maybe they were trying to save money by not doing full-blown sets, but I think it's in line enough with the era of Trek that they're trying to recreate or tell stories in that I think it worked.
I agree. As I said, it did look that way when they first started out. And I'm like, okay, but then once they got into it and everything, I'm like, you know what? This all tracks. Like this tracks. I like it. Let's keep going.
Yeah, I agree as well. I did know I was thinking about set design as well. Funnily enough, so it's good to know that I wasn't the only person thinking that. It did have the campiness of TOS, but it had that sort of bizarreness of. Well, regarding it reminded me of the Robin Hood episodes and some of the holodeck episodes, basically.
Cupid,
yeah, all of that Cupid for sure, and even was it Captain Bizarro and all that in Voyager? Was that it?
Captain Proton.
Captain Proton, yeah,
all of that. Also, the Moriarty episodes.
Yeah, all of that. It kind of gave me that vibe. Regarding the when very much a TNG sort of vibe for sure. In this, yeah. So
some TOS,
yeah, for sure. TOS and the campiness, that's definitely, But I love this episode mainly for, and I know we'll get onto this later, but I just have to bring up right now the actress who plays Sing. She was.
It was
fantastic,
beautiful,
fantastic. Like
acting.
I mean,
oh my god, chef kiss.
Yeah, chef kiss for the acting. Totally role reverse, 180 from what she usually plays. And my god, I didn't realize how fucking beautiful she was until she was in that dress.
Seriously,
I mean, it's hard to really appreciate. Like sometimes, when you're looking very formal and very workmanlike, it's very hard to really appreciate somebody as much as when they're looking like a fucking goddamn princess with their bosom full,
Well, that's what I noticed the most is like when they're all professional looking, and you're like, "How you doing, mama?"
Yeah, but she's gorgeous, man, absolutely gorgeous. But Mage, why don't you give us a play on what happened today?
All right. Well, we're gonna we start out with the Doctor's personal log. The Enterprise is observing the Genesian Nebula, doing a survey. The Doctor is once again reading from the storybook to his daughter Rukia. The storybook, they show the cover, the Elysian Kingdom, same episode same as the episode title. She doesn't like the ending, though. She wishes that the ending would be different, that the king didn't have to choose between the Mercury Stone, which is this MacGuffin, and saving Princess Talia. He says, to her one day she'll be able to, tell her own stories with their own endings. She asks about seeing his quarters. He says one day she'll be able to see the whole ship once he gets her cured. He puts her back into the pattern buffer and goes to work on the cure. It literally blows up in his face. A puff of smoke goes up and before the force field contains it. And then we have Una show up.
I just actually want to go on to that in a second. Before we do, first of all, Daniel Vancer says, and Beggar is reading a book by Benny Russell. Benny Russell is the writer that Sisko imagined himself to be in the final episode of DS9. Fair enough. I had no idea about that. And we also have No Budget Productions here. Never know if it's Frank or Vance, but either way, it's always a pleasure to have you in our podcast. And Daniel Vance says, cheers, No Budget Productions. Now, there was no repercussions from that puff of smoke blowing in his face, was there?
He thought there was,
not
but
immediately.
But there wasn't.
Because I was thinking to myself, oh, something's going to happen now. Puff of smoke in his face. You know what I mean? And it wasn't long until I totally forgot that was even involved in the episode, and nothing happened in this episode during the course of this episode that made you think, oh, that puff of smoke played a part. But fair enough. And I don't mind that sometimes. It's just a puff of smoke. It shouldn't have any more significance sometimes.
Well, they kind of turn the trope on their head.
Yeah.
And it plays up enough that he thinks it might have been what was causing it at a couple of points, but doesn't end up going anywhere. I think it was a good red herring.
Yeah, exactly, for sure. Please continue.
So Una comes in and she asks about the wellness check of the shuttle crew, if they've been cleared for duty yet or not. The Doctor explains that he must have been gotten lost in his research. And, Una asks him how it's going and shows concern, but then does what the officer should do and remind him of his duty to the Enterprise and to the rest of the crew. But gently, Una shows a great, capacity for being number one in this moment and just knocks it out of the park. And that's where we're going to cut. No, you said capacity, but I would say compassion for sure, because she's trying to be she's kind of like walking on eggshells a little bit. She doesn't want to come across as too bossy. At the same time, she needs to tell Mbenga to look, sort your shit out. And it's amazing how Star Trek officers are able to do that so well, and people in real life can't.
Well, and that's kind of one of the things that I appreciated a lot about this episode was it. And I've said this before in Discovery and in Picard, it feels like everything is in Starfleet is getting too huggy, like like it was nice to see Una being very gentle, but being like reminding him, because if they were on Discovery, it would be like, oh, you take all the time you need. I'm sure it's nothing. And then they'll give him a hug and then walk away. Like, you're a Starfleet, you're the chief medical officer, and Una was right. As I said, we empathize with the daughter and everything, but at the same time, it's like, you've got a job to do and you've got people to take care of. Because if they brought something back from I know the pattern buffers like work everything out, but it's like you need to do your job there, son. So
yeah.
And Una did she asked him to rest. He said he didn't need to. She ordered him to take a break. So it's walking the middle ground a little bit by Una. It's still a little bit huggier than what we've seen in the past, but it's a little bit of a rollback to, kind of.
And we have to remember in the day, these guys are explorers. This is not the military. They might have military type ranks, but it's a total departure from that. They're there to, seek out new worlds and strange new galaxies and all that shit.
I like to liken them to the Peace Corps. It's kind of a paramilitary operation, but its primary focus is on humanitarian efforts, and in the case of Starfleet, exploration, like you said.
Yeah. All right, let's go. Let's keep going.
All right, so on the bridge, the survey has been completed. The captain, jinxing it, notes that it's very nice that there's nothing happening. They're just getting to focus on science and exploration. He orders Ortegas to send them to the starbase, I think McNeil, I want to say. And I think that's a reference to an actual contemporary military base. I didn't have time to double check.
Well, we go on about tropes earlier on and how that the puff of smoke wasn't a trope. Well, this was a fucking trope. Oh, isn't it cool that everything's so quiet and stuff? And the funny thing is, maybe Spock's the human side was speaking out a little bit, saying about basically in a more in a more scientific manner. He's basically talking about jinxing, but that's really his human side speaking out a little bit, in my opinion.
All right, and he's like, "You told me about not jinxing it, Captain. You're jinxing it." And he immediately does. I kind of like this Ortegas moment. I'm trying to hit it. I don't know. I enjoyed her a lot this episode.
Well, because she was playing somebody else, but I don't know. I think she just chats a lot of shit all the time, but when she's not under the influence of some fucking enigma in space, but when she's just being herself, she can be quite jarring. But nevertheless, let me just quickly read what Daniel wants us to say. McNair Station refers to Ronald McNair. He was a crewman aboard NASA's fated Challenger flight. He survived the assignment patch, was shown in the crash and bird bar in First Contact. I got a terrible NASA joke I would like to share with you guys. What did NASA stand for after the Challenger disaster? Get yourself off mute. Get yourself off mute.
What'd you say?
What did NASA stand for after the Challenger disaster?
I don't want to know.
I'm really sorry I'm going to say this, but it has been over 30 years. Need another 7 astronauts. All right, let's continue. All right. Let's continue. I heard that joke in school, by the way. All right, let's continue.
So, they try to warp away to McNair Station. The warp engines won't go. Spock says that there must be a microtron pulse emanating from the nebula that's stopping them. He recommends that they go to Impulse. Pike contacts Hemmer in engineering. Great to see Hemmer in this episode. Just putting that in there. Always proud to see Hemmer.
He'd been missing for a while, by the way, so it's good to see him back.
I think it's been like 2 or 3 episodes.
It's been several too many. I can't get enough Hemmer. He concurs with Spock, and when they try to go to Impulse, they violently come to a stop almost immediately. Ortegas is flung, gets a bad contusion to her head, and they call the doctor to come up there. He heads out, but once he gets to the bridge, it's been transformed into a royal medieval type court, and the one from the book, and he's dressed as the king.
I had a feeling that he was a little bit fatigued or something like that before he went upstairs. Like he looked really tired, or like he was under the influence or something like that. But maybe I was just imagining things. I'm not sure if you guys got the same impression.
I did. I think that's intentional, trying to give us false clues of what's causing everything. Yeah. So we think maybe he's dreaming, maybe he's hallucinating from the puff of smoke. There could be something else going on. It was a fun guessing game this entire episode, but by the end, you'll realize, everybody at home and you guys will realize why it was so detailed in the initial description. It's because every last thing from that first scene ties into the solution.
Yeah, I mean, I also put it down maybe that he just worked very hard, and he's burning the candle at both ends as well a little bit. And he's not a young, he's not a young man either, so it's
kind of exhausted hallucination.
Yeah, for sure. And I was thinking of the old hallucination game a little bit initially, but I'm glad that wasn't necessarily the case. It kind of, but it wasn't really the case. But seeing Captain Pike,
right after the credits roll, he is phenomenal as this kind of cowardly and kiss-ass Chamberlain from the story. Ortegas is Sir Agia. She's the king's bodyguard, it would seem. And food taster, there's this great bit about the wine. And she ends up telling Pike basically that, his character would be better served being in the kitchen. I thought that was a great turnaround on traditional stereotypical dialogues.
What's the name of the Asian pilot? I forget her name.
Mitchell, I think.
Okay, and she was the woman with the scar over her eye, wasn't she?
She thinks she did end up playing that part.
Yeah.
I couldn't place who that was, but now that you say it, I think you're right.
And what bugs me a little bit is that he's going to the bridge, and the people on the bridge, there's a couple of them who are missing, Spock and Mitchell. Like they were on the bridge initially, now they're not on the bridge, and I found that a bit weird. Obviously, they did turn up later on in the episode, but I thought people should still be in the same place regardless of the change of environment. But anyway, that's just me. Chia, you got anything to add very quickly?
No, I mean, this is just great shenanigans. Trek shenanigans at its core. I really thought that a lot of this was executed. Pike is like the cowardly, like, what was he? I don't even remember what he was, but like
he was the Chamberlain. Everybody is inverse of their normal personality and kind of role in this.
I don't know. Ortega's was still pretty brash and brazen, and that's pretty much on par with what she is.
Okay.
Yeah, it's more to do with they're playing characters from a book, and it just happens to be very different to who they are.
And
I just a gender flip with her, though.
They did do the gender flip with her. You are correct.
So, but she was still Ortega's. But somehow I enjoyed her very much, and I think the actress. I've always liked the actress. But in a situation where it doesn't seem as insubordinate, or her snark is kind of endearing and funny. I enjoyed her banter with the captain in this one.
Yeah,
because she wasn't herself, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, and also, I mean, Anson Mount. I mean, come on. Like, I know the episode's not about him, and it's good to see him take a back seat every now and then. But he just chews up the scenery that he's in every single episode. And it's good, but it's bad because
he stole it.
He really, really did.
He absolutely stole the show once again. Every scene he was in was pure gold. But honestly, just about every scene in this episode was pure gold. So we get.
Well, sorry, just to interrupt a sec. I've seen Anson Mount act for the last 20 years or so I know he's a decent actor. There were some of the other people who I don't know regarding the acting range. They're the ones who surprised me a lot more than Anson Mount did. This is like a walk in the park for him, in my opinion.
I love it. I love everything.
I like what he did, by the way. I like the fact that he was very different to what we expect him to be in Trek.
I mean, last episode was it last episode? He's like talking like a pirate, or maybe 2 episodes ago. He's talking like a pirate at the end. Like, I mean, come on.
Yeah, that was hilarious.
Oh, I just love it. Like, it's so good. Okay, keep going. I'm sorry, Mage.
No, it's all good. It's all good. So, Dr. King, Dr. Mbega heads to sick bay. He's got to figure out if he's hallucinating or what's going on here. He runs into Nurse Chapel, and she seems to be some sort of healer or druid type and she's got this sanctuary that is Medvay. When he examines her, seems she has highly elevated levels of dopamine, which I know Cheeto, that causes your brain to just go all sorts of nuts activity wise, or is an indicator, physiologically speaking, your brain's on overdrive.
Yeah, I agree. Cheeto knows about dopamine a lot. Yeah.
And he gets it from the memes and thumbnails he makes.
Yeah.
So Princess Talia enters the scene, and Lon comes in, and the actress just knocks it out of the park, acting against type, just like you guys were saying. Go ahead, Cheeto.
And this is the scene that Zam's dopamine levels go through the roof.
Yeah. The thirstiest show of the franchise just gets thirstier every week, and I'm not mad at it.
Honestly, like just to go back to, I spoke to her about her before, but I just wish she just made me laugh a comic time, because she's not really a comical character as Sing, but she was so funny. You know what I mean? And she acted like so differently to what I ever expected, and she looks so beautiful as well. It's like, wow, complete package. I loved it. Couldn't get enough.
This over-the-top spoiled princess type character was great. The fact that she had her little toy dog, I thought was a great touch.
Yeah, she's a
little
bit dopey as well, So like all of it, yeah. So
little Legally Blonde,
action fantastic. Going on. Wow, this made me think this girl can really act. She's got the world is her oyster if she can perform, keep doing performances like that.
Yeah, you couldn't miss plot points in this episode.
Nice euphemism, Daniel Vance. Very good euphemism. She starts asking about the Mercury Stone, which is this powerful weapon and MacGuffin from the story. She says that Queen Neve, the evil villain, she will stop at nothing to get it, that her forces are encroaching upon the kingdom. Upon examination, she also has the same highly elevated levels of dopamine. You hear Himmer's voice coming from outside, and in the hallway, he's being like kidnapped or abducted by the Crimson Guard, which is a great red shirt pun. I thought that just tickled me so much. I didn't catch it until the second watch, but I'm like, it's the red shirts.
I never thought of that, but now you mention it, I agree too, especially with that fight with Ortega. So yeah, I do agree. It was a bit of a red shirt pun for sure.
So apparently the character that Hemmer has been assigned is Castor, the wizard. Which at first I thought that was just a bad pun about, and gaming term thrown in. But
you must be wondering. I was just thinking, like, he's not human. You must be wondering what the fuck is going on.
He has no cultural point of reference for any of this, so he had to be even more disoriented than just about any other crew member would have been.
But before it was resolved to find out kind of what happened, why he was on the same wavelength as Mbenga, did you think it was because he was blind? Because that's what I thought.
I thought that was my first thought. I knew it was either that or his telepathic powers.
I was about to say, my first thought was the telepathic powers, just because. Go ahead.
I thought, because of the sconces and torches that were all about, I thought maybe they were going for some sort of optical illusion or optical hypnosis approach. And maybe that was why Himmer wasn't unaffected, because he was blind. But I knew it was that or the telepathy. And I was about to say,
I knew from the beginning of this episode that this was going to be an alien entity influencing the crew. So that's why I figured it was telepathy. It was some non-corporeal being. Like, that was kind of predictable, and I'm okay with it. Like, that being predictable does not mean you're automatically bad,
Then surely Spock and any other Vulcan on the ship should have not been affected either.
Yeah, but Hemmer's species race of Andorians, they are highly telepathic. technically Vulcans are not highly telepathic, although they kind of play fast and loose with how much telepathic use they have. But you're right, you could have made the argument that Spock shouldn't have been affected either, but at the same time, Spock's, I mean, I think he's relatively young in this. Like, I mean, he's,
and he's half human.
And he's half human. Yeah. So
I think he's only like 50, maybe not even that old yet.
Yeah.
All right,
maybe Daniel Vance knows. So the Crimson Guard say that Queen Nev is no longer going to recognize the peace treaty that apparently she had with Dr. Mbenga's kingdom. Everybody keeps going on how they have to get the Mercury Stone. But so Doctor says, the wizard caster can help us get it. We've got to go after him and save him. We cut to a planning meeting on the bridge where Chamberlain Roth is displaying his cowardice and just general goofiness all over again, just being the antithesis to our normal Captain Pike. Ortega's is Sir Arya and him bicker to much delight on my part and my wife's part. But ultimately, they decide the three of them are going to set out for the enemy territory to try to rescue Hemmer/Caster. And they run into the wizard Pollux, being played by Spock. Now, I'm not sure if any the names caught my attention. I was like, I know these from somewhere. I looked it up. They're actually references to Greek mythology. A pair of twins by different fathers. One
twins
of them
by a different father? What?
Yes, it's technically possible. It happens rarely, but happens in real life biologically.
Okay.
Yeah, it's crazy, but that's the mythology of it. One of them, Pollux, is the one who's half god. So I think maybe that's why they picked the half Vulcan to be the one who received that name. But it's got to be an intentional reference.
I just want to say, it doesn't matter how you make Ethan Peck look. He looks amazing all the fucking time, doesn't he? Long hair, short hair, whatever. He just looks.
The long hair really does it. My wife lost her shit.
Yeah, he's a walking Adonis, isn't he? I mean,
no one cast should be as attractive as this cast. It's almost criminal.
I mean, it's true. I mean, like they really, really got some beautiful looking people for this show. I'm not gonna lie, but I'm glad that they are not trying to throw them in cat suits. I'm super glad that they're not trying to throw one of these people in a cat suit. Although they went very close to it last week. I mean, it wasn't the main character, but it was a villain. She was in something.
What the hell was she wearing? Yeah, I know.
But yeah.
Well,
I mean, Queen Nev shows up, played by Uhura, and I mean, watch out!
Fantastic! Wow!
Watch out, Captain Killy. She might get dethroned as the Queen Dom of the Star Trek universe. Thirsty Queen internet Dom. Section. She's got big Dom energy. I'm sorry.
Damn.
Especially, she promises they're going to get tortured and everything. They get locked up in the cell with Hemmer. He gets brought up to speed on everything that's going on. And he explains what was going on with him when it happened. He said he felt like he was being kind of probed or contacted by a consciousness that he blocked thanks to his telepathic training and being an Anar.
Daniel Vance, I couldn't stop thinking of the face of Cage was Caster, his brother was Pollux.
Okay, the movie Face Off.
Yeah. Pollux, Troy, Caster, Troy.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
The Troy last names would be because the brothers were involved in the Trojan War after surviving being Argonauts. Okay. So he describes the discomfort that he felt while he was being probed. Says it felt like his brain was being squeezed out his nose. That he felt like the entity was in consciousness was a part of the nebula, and he busts them out with a plasma torch, and he starts leaning into this whole "he's a wizard" bit. He says abracadabra and behold the magic that is science, and it's just great stuff. What do you guys think about those parts?
It's really good to see that Hemmer is not just a grump. I mean, he knows how to have a good time as well. That he's got more layers to his personality, and he's it was brilliant. It was brilliant. He just lost himself in the moment. And the magic of science as well. That was, I love it. Yeah, fantastic.
I thought. I mean, I agree. I thought it was great. Hemmer, as I said, we saw a lot of Hemmer this episode, not just being like the grump of engineering. Like, you kind of take him out of his element, and he's actually having fun a little bit with this. So,
yeah, I think he takes his. He's a bit like Gordon Ramsay. He takes his work seriously, but he knows how to have fun at the same time. When
Gordon Ramsay is a good comparison. I did not think of that, but that is a good comparison. He can be a proper asshole when he's in his element. But when he's out of it, he's not. He's probably a good. Has a good time.
Yeah.
All right, so
I think there might be a Gordon Ramsay Hemmer meme coming in the near future.
One of us needs to get on it, Cheeto.
Yeah.
So Quinnev is very angered by their escape, and she displays this kind of evil, kind of sadistic nature again, threatening more torture. She sends Pollux and the Crimson Guard after the escapees. There's a confrontation in the hall where the Crimson Guard red shirt reference really comes together. Adia just kind of disarms them and makes complete fools out of them with the most impressive swordplay I've seen in Trek yet. I'm not trying to knock on the Sulu rapier scene, but this was some nicely choreographed swordplay in the episode, I felt like. The Chamberlain runs away once,
I just want to add that sword Ortega's used is about as big as she is. It's fucking humongous.
Even a prop sword that size has to weigh a lot, and for her to be able to swing it around like she did shows some real athleticism.
Also, I also want to add, because this is something I noticed, but not something I'm in line with, but I did notice that some of the men were treated like jokes in this, and the women were a lot stronger. Like some of the men red shirts were kind of incompetent, and then that big female red shirt came along to try and sort things out, and then obviously the Mitchell red shirt tried to beat Ortegas as well, and obviously Anson Mount being the captain, it came across as a bit of a weasel as well, But I'm not in line with any of that shit because I don't care, but because of the way things are going now in social media, people pick up on those sort of things, and unfortunately I picked up on it as well. But
I didn't even think about it until you just mentioned it. But
yeah,
who cares? Like, I mean,
exactly. I 100% agree. Who cares? But unfortunately, like these fandom menace types, this is what they argue over, and I guarantee you, like somebody's going to think of what I thought of, and they're going to make a big deal about this shit. So anyway, nevertheless, let's continue.
Yeah, I don't get those types at all. So they are rescued by the Huntress. I didn't catch the character's given name, but it's Una, and she's come to the rescue. She's a good guy apparently, and they escape, and we start getting sort of like what's really going on. Hemmer explains that this is probably a spontaneously generated consciousness known as a Boltzmann brain. And it's a godlike entity, very much akin to like your gaseous godlike entities from TOS. I think there's three different ones.
Sorry for interrupting you all the time, but the moment sorry, not Ortegas. The moment Mbenga realized that Una and Ortegas' characters were never supposed to meet with each other, and it deviated from the book, immediately I thought, yep, the daughter's involved. You know, I'm not sure if you picked up on that, Cheeto.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, one more time.
Well, when Mbenga realized that Una's character and Ortega's character was never supposed to meet, because that's not how it is in the book, and obviously earlier on in the episode, Mbenga's daughter wanted to change how the story was. It kind of, I saw the correlation there, so I immediately realized, okay, the daughter has a part to play in this.
I kind of figured the daughter had a part to play when I just with the theme of the episode. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, I wasn't like in my mind the whole time. I'm like, when's the daughter coming in? When's the daughter coming in? But it's like with the way things, the fantasy aspect and everything, and he was reading the book earlier. I'm like, okay, the daughter's probably going to come into this in some sort of way.
I just to add that I mean, the daughter could have been involved in various aspects, but this made me realize that she was a string puller. You know what I mean? She was the puppeteer, not the puppet. So, anyway.
No, I was about to get there, but I love that you pointed it out, because they laid all the foundation for everything that was going to be like the twist in the episode in that first scene. And they put all the breadcrumbs there, and I felt like it was really well written.
Could this all have been the start of what later becomes Trelane and the Q? No, because
Q have always existed. At least that's what they say.
Q's have been around forever. So, anyways.
Yep. They first postulate that this event that's happening on the Enterprise was caused by being linked to the Doctor's brainwaves, but as you pointed out, Sam, he notices the differences. It's coming off of Rukia, that she wanted a more traditional team up between the Huntress and Suragia. I'm not sure that she wanted the type that they sell to us, but it must be her brainwaves. They check the buffer for her. She's not there. She's not in sickbay at all. We cut to a different scene where the Captain's Chamberlain character is being the total weasel that he is and switching sides, swearing allegiance to Queen Nev. He shows up at sickbay and puts a knife to King Mbenga's neck. Queen Nev, Pollux, and the Crimson Guard have come for the stone, and Queen Nev offers a trade to the king, in which he says he'll never take, and he just did a phenomenal job of selling the anger and protectiveness of a father in that moment, I feel like. Just great acting all around on this episode.
There wasn't, just to make sure, there wasn't a Mercury stone in this episode, was there? There wasn't one of any
There
capacity.
there never actually was one. It was just straight up a MacGuffin.
Okay. Fair enough.
So we get even more, we get this great funny bluff by Hemmer where he threatens to banish them to the event horizon and says abracadabra when, doing his science magic, sending them to Cargo Bay 12. What's Daniel Vance got to say name now?
Dr. Mbenga's daughter's name is Rukia. Of Arabic origin, it means she rises up like a loaf of bread. All right.
Like someone who ascends to a higher plane of existence.
Oh, that too.
No, I like your bread one better, though.
Thank you.
So once they go into the doctor's quarters, Mbenga posts Agia to be guard outside. She, swears to protect them with her life. Turns out that Rukia has been cured, and thanks to her friend, the entity. He, starts to explain to her that they need to get things back to normal. That the entity's going to have to let the ship go. Hemmer offers to connect to the entity to try to communicate this. Rukia asks the the entity if it's okay. Himmer asks the entity conversely to, not pull his brains out through his nose this time. The entity, it turns out, was lonely. It feels a connection to Rukia, and it suggests, it questions the doctor's ethics and motivations in keeping her locked up in the pattern buffer. The doctor rebuts with, I was protecting her and, keeping her alive to get this cure. So now, just like the king in the story, the doctor has to choose in a needs of the many, the ship / kingdom, versus the needs of the few, the princess / his daughter. Yeah, and I mean, it's even more on the head because they've got her in the princess outfit. The entity offers to take Rukia's consciousness into itself, saying that then she'll never have to worry about sickness or death. She'll essentially get to have an eternal life. This is a very emotional parting scene, and even get this really cute moment when she's being absorbed into the entity, where she goes, "It tickles, Daddy." And we get a brief pause in the scene there. What do you guys think about all this?
Even when she came, like, this is like the part of the story which kind of got me head scratching. Like, is what he's offering his daughter? I mean, is he able to contemplate that what his daughter will be getting is actually a good thing? Is eternal life really a good thing? And especially being an entity that's out, you're just a consciousness. You're not in your body. How can he even, on a whim, think that this is a better option than where she is right now? Obviously, it's not ideal where she is right now, but maybe just because you offer this particular choice, which is not a normal choice, doesn't mean it's a better choice. And I found all of that very hard to take in, and I felt Mbenga made his choice very quickly at the same time, very easily. So, like, he was pretty much giving up his child. She might as well be dead, Yeah, I found this very hard to digest. Even talking about it now, I'm finding it hard to digest.
It felt very quick.
Yeah.
Honestly, I couldn't disagree more. Watching with Mbenga and looking at what he had laid before him, one thing that a parent wants is they want their child to live and be happy with or without them. You don't want your kid, like, no parent wants to outlive their kid. So it's like this moment here was basically him coming to the realization that the only way that he is going to be able to save her at this point, because he was even saying earlier in the episode that he's running out of time. She does not have a lot of time left. And I think that he came to the realization that, he saw her cured, and so the only way that's going to stay is if she stays there. And I think a parent would choose. And I mean, she even made the choice. She said she wanted to go. I feel like if she would have said, and I know she's a kid, but I mean, I feel like if she would have said, "Daddy, I'm scared. I don't want to go," he would have been like, "No, I'm sorry.
Okay,
like we can't do this." But I don't know. I mean, as I said, every parent wants their kid to live on without them. And so the choice, and she's a consciousness and everything. You're right. There is a huge unknown there, but that entity pretty much could have probably Romfel stomped the crew anytime they wanted to, or they wanted that Deborah wanted to. And so I don't know. I really, this was the hook of the episode that I was like, because I thought that they were going to just magically cure her and then she was going to now be on the ship. Like I'm like, okay, so this is where Mbega's daughter gets cured and she stays on the ship, and now Mbega has his daughter. And they did it. They did the thing where it's like, look, not everything works out perfectly. Not everything can be 100%, kosher at the end. And the way that Mbega sold that moment, I thought was, And I know you guys felt like it was quick, but at the same time, you don't, like taking a bullet for your kid. You don't have a second to think. You just knee jerk react. And it's like, and yes, this wasn't a bullet or anything like that, but at the same time, he knew what the outcome was.
Right. He would have been dooming her.
Yeah. She stayed, she died. And if that's probably, and as I said, I felt like Mbega was like, half of him wanted her to say she would stay. And then he would keep working and hopefully find something. But then the other half had come to the realization that she is not going to be like, he cannot do this. It's out of his control. And there is something out there that can cure her and give her somewhat of a life. And I get what you're saying about the like immortality, but it doesn't seem like it's immortality. It seems like it's something complete. It's kind of like the prophets more so, like from DS9. Like it's not just a consciousness living through time, because she came back moments later and she was already an adult.
Mm-hmm.
So
that's when he realized he made the right choice after that, because I see it from that perspective. But at the same time, prior to that, he didn't even know if this entity would be good for his daughter. Yes, he cured her and stuff, but in the long run, would this person will be taking over parenting duties from him?
Right.
So if there's a chance he was taking,
I think it's more of a symbiotic relationship, like where you have Venom. It's like with Venom and Eddie Brock. It's like, I mean, bad comparison, but they're together and yet they enhance each other, but in a completely different sense. Like it's more of a cognitive way, or like a person, not personality, but you know what I mean? Like it's not just physically merging, it is cognitively, personality, consciously merging. So
well, I do hope this is not the last we'll see of her, because there's an opportunity to expand on this now in a way.
No.
But I also want to add that Star Trek Strange New Worlds has done the best job of serializing episodic content, if you know what I mean.
Mm-hmm.
Like is like this hybrid now, which they're doing. It can be quite complex, but the way they pulled it off, with this episode, I think is pretty good, considering what we had earlier on.
I honestly disagree with you. And actually it goes into the next show, and I'm not transitioning, but I'm just saying, like, I honestly feel like that Orville has done a great job serializing episodic content. They've done a much better job at doing that. I feel like Strange New Worlds is strictly episodic. The only serialization that we really have is, yes, Mbega's daughter, which they've already closed that pretty much, and then Captain Pike's outcome, like future.
I would also throw in Spock's wife as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. They added Cybok last week, as well as Captain Angel. So
yeah, but that's just kind of like Q, like from the Next Generation, or Harry Mudd from the original series. Like those are reoccurring characters. That does not mean serialization, really.
Well,
so
it opens the door for a new serialization next season, but they're wrapping up the serialization that they've started for this season. And I think it's a good thing that they're closing up, maybe tying up loose ends before starting others. I haven't got to the new Expanse, or I'm sorry, Orville stuff yet, so I can't speak to which.
Well, and that's why I don't want to say anything about Orville until we get there. But I'm just saying, like, I feel like that show is.
I agree.
Is doing a better job at serializing episodically. But
it's doing it. Strange New Worlds is definitely doing that better than any Trek has done.
Regarding Trek, and I'll agree with you there, mate. Regarding Trek, Strange New Worlds is doing it better than Picard and better than Discovery, for sure. I'm not saying that I don't like Discovery. I do like Discovery, but I'm not the biggest fan of Picard. I think it's fallen off its pedestal for season 2, and the serialization of it was just ridiculous. But yeah, Strange New Worlds has got that hybrid just fucking right, just right. Yeah. Anyway, any more to add?
No, I mean we talked about. Yeah, we're at the epilogue. We get the scene that we just kind of discussed, where we get the closure and the doctor gets vindication. I think is a good thing that Dr. Mbenga didn't have to sit and question if he had done the right thing for his child.
well, that would be a
for a
loose
long time.
string.
It would
So
be a
I
loose
really
string,
feel
but
like
we
they
tied
wanted-
it up.
Yeah, I really feel like they wanted to tie it up before this episode ended.
I'm glad they did that, and we've kind of closed turn the final page on that chapter. It was some good closure. I feel like the acting was phenomenal. I'm glad we had you here, Cheeto, to hear the kind of perspective of biological father seeing that episode. I'm still new at being a stepdad and figuring out what it's all about.
I don't have any kids. I never will, but I'm a good uncle.
I bet you're the best crazy uncle that any family's
Damn
ever
fucking
had.
right. Yeah,
So
fucking right.
Una shows up, and we end the episode with Dr. Mbenga starting to tell her the story of the missing 5 hours of the Enterprise with the phrase "once upon a time."
I want to add that with them realizing they've missed 5 hours, it kind of reminds me of that TNG episode where they realize certain things have happened to them, and the only people who realize is Data. And
he's trying to hide it and trying to not. And you think he's being, insubordinate and shady, but he has two. That was a good episode.
That was a fantastic episode because they realized that they had to lose their memory again, and this time they'll get it right and they'll leave no stones unturned. Yeah, no clues, so to speak. It was a brilliant episode. One of my favorite, actually. It was such a great episode. But yeah, a bit like that. But this time around, Mbenga is not hiding anything. He's the only person that not even Hema knows. He forgets as well, which is strange. But fair enough. Yeah, and that was the episode, I guess. Not bad. Give it some marks now. I'm torn between 7 and 8. I really am. I want to know what you guys will say about it first, Gio.
10 out of 10. 10
Seriously?
out of 10. I'm doing 10 out of 10, man. This is a perfect episode of Trek. I'm sorry. For me, it was a good episodic open and shut case. Like everybody was having fun. Everybody, like, there was exploration involved. There was technically there was diplomacy involved. There was even the moral conflict or stuff like that. So I really enjoyed it. I'm giving it 10 out of 10. I will die on that mountain.
Well, Vance is giving it a 5 out of 10. This was middle of the road Trek for him. So what about yourself, Mage?
I'm giving it a 9.
Wow.
Solid hits on every cylinder you want Trek to hit on. Like Cheeto said, diplomacy, exploration. Plus, you had the fun of like those weird one-off episodes where there's craziness and hijinks. Everybody did a phenomenal job acting, playing against type.
La'an's plot points. I mean, come on.
Yeah, you're damn right. I think I'm going to give it an 8 then. I enjoyed this episode. It was fun. Some of the acting was pretty good. I would like to have seen a little bit more of the crew playing these different characters a bit more. But I guess we're focusing around Mbenga, so we couldn't. But still,
and Hammer. I was really glad to see those two get some shine in this episode.
But the reason I give it an 8 because even though you make very valid points, Cheeto, it still bugs me regarding that, and like Mbenga's decision and all of that. It doesn't sit well with me still, but I do understand your points without a doubt as well at the same time. So an 8 for me. I thoroughly enjoyed this episode for most of it. Okay.
All right.
Awesome. Thanks for having me, as always, guys. All viewers, may the force be with you. Mage signing out. Have fun talking about the Orville, guys. I'm halfway through season 1. I'll be able to join soon, I hope.
No problem. Get yourself onto watching Umbrella Academy too.
I should be caught up on Boys tomorrow. So if you need somebody to join you and Ginger, I'm down.
Yeah, 8:05 UK time.
8:05 UK. I'll be there. I'll watch Messenger. You guys have fun.
Okay, mate. See ya. All right, so we're on to the other show, which is very Star Trek-like, and that's called the Orville. This was episode 4, Gently Falling Rain. What do you think of it, Cheetah?
I thought this episode was great. It had marks of diplomacy. It had marks of
Cheers, Daniel Vance. I'll see you later.
it had marks of tension, pew pews. All like a lot of characters were moving on all cylinders in this episode. This felt like a pivotal episode in this season because it felt like this is a big deal. Like the treaty with the Krill and all this other stuff. Like a lot was impending on this. I thought it was a little weird that they still brought them to the Krill homeworld on the day of the election. Okay, maybe Krill do things weirder than we do. You know, the Krill Chancellor wanted to see his victory, but at the same time, there was a lot of good things here. And then just Seth MacFarlane in this season is really like, now that they've kind of moved to a little bit more of a serious-ish tone, I really am digging it. I'm not gonna lie, like this.
I'm digging it too. It's refreshing.
Yeah, like I mean, Strange New World. Like we right now in sci-fi between Strange New Worlds and Orville, I am having a hard time deciding which one to watch first. Like literally, like I have a hard time deciding. I'm like, I could watch Orville first, or I could watch Strange New Worlds first, and I'm like, I actually have a hard time deciding now. Like before, it would be like I would always watch Marvel first, or I would always watch Star Trek first. Like hands down, those are my two go-tos. Right now, it's like, oh god, on Thursdays, it's like I have a hard time picking which one to start with.
Well, because Orville tends to come out, if I watch it before I go to work, I tend to watch Orville because that comes out bang on time for us here in the UK.
Yeah, it comes out.
Obvious,
I was gonna say it comes out at midnight here, but the problem is like that's about the time I'm heading to bed. So it's like, yeah, that's why it's like it's hard for me to stay up and watch it. But I've tried to. I think I started watching the first 15 minutes last night, but still, it's like I was falling asleep, and I'm like, time for bed.
but today I watched Strange New World, and then I watched Orville second. But either way, like I know I'm going to watch both, so I'm not too fussy. I just automatically pick one without even thinking. But this show, you can see like how big of a budget it's got and everything, and the funny thing is, if this show wasn't trying to be comedic in the first place, like it was with the earlier seasons, and then we had moments like where they were getting drunk on the holodeck, and then they had to speak to their superiors afterwards and try to hide the fact that they've been drinking, then we wouldn't try to look at it as like the sort of humor we expect from Orville. We just think it's just a funny moment in an episode of Star Trek, for instance. But this being Orville, when we get those humorous moments like Isaac walking into a bar with a fucking moustache, he looks like this guy. Look, this is Isaac. Here's Isaac. Here we go.
How do you even do that? What the hell is that?
This software I got called UCam 9, but so
you should do the rest of the You should do the rest of the podcast like that.
You sure?
No.
Okay,
Mr. Monopoly Man over here.
Yeah, but that was absolutely hilarious when he did that. He walks into that bar. You can still see that New Girl's got an issue with him as well. So there's that serialized storytelling you're talking about. She just hasn't forgiven Isaac at all, regardless, but just tries to keep it professional as she can do. But with this Krill treaty, it's what you expect from Star Trek, which you see in Orville, a diplomacy angle. And obviously it's going to go tits up. These things, no diplomacy angle ever goes smoothly until finally we learn our lesson of the day, and then we come up with a good response to maybe make people think for themselves a little bit. That wasn't necessarily the case this time around. We did learn some new things as well during the course of this episode, which I'll get to in a bit. But it's good to see people like Ted Danson in this as well, playing one of the one of the superior officers as well, and Earth, or in this case, it wasn't Earth, it was the Union. But their presidents are always aliens, aren't they? Which I don't mind in this particular case. But my only issue with the Orville, just generally with the aliens, is that unlike Star Trek, they're not very familiar. So I'm still getting used to them. Regarding like the two main ones, or three main ones is Bortus's species, which are mainly male, and they haven't really been troping on that. I haven't even seen Bortus's husband once this season. You know what I mean? Are they going to sidetrack that a little bit? It'll be interesting to see if they're still going to go down that route. Now that Disney own Orville, that is. But what else is there? Like you got the Krill and you got the Kalon. And that's really about it. I don't know anybody else.
I mean, what's her Anara's race?
Oh,
the one with
yeah.
with the ridges going up here, and they're super strong because their gravity is 10 times gravity.
And they look like there was something between her and John beginning in this episode as well when they were at the bar, and they seemed to. It looked like there was something going on there, because Lamar's a fucking player, by the way. I mean, he's the serial shagger. Usually it's the captain on these shows, but in this particular case, it's the chief engineer. He bangs everything, and he's on the case of the chief security officer. And I don't blame her, because she looks gorgeous anyway. So, I mean, and you probably kill him in the sack. She's so fucking strong. But,
but he's sleeping with Porcupine Lady. I don't even know what race that was. I mean, I would be interesting to sit down and look at like a discovery video that we do that like where we sit down and we look into all of these races on Orville and see how much the canon, whether it's fan canon or actual show canon, like what these races and how many there are so far. It would be interesting to see that.
Yeah. And because there was such a big gap, like over 3 years between season 2 and season 3, like some of the scenarios in season 2 kind of I kind of forgot about a little bit. I kind of vaguely remember like the relationship between Telia and Captain Mercer. I had no idea that they shagged. I can't even remember them shagging.
They did. I mean, they were in a relation. I think it was a couple episodes long. I don't think it was just one episode. I think they were like a thing for a couple episodes that led up to an episode where that whole Krill, like her being a Krill spy and all that, kind of came to a head. So they built that for a couple episodes because she showed up and her and Ed were having a relationship. And it might have only been 2 episodes, but I know that there was build up to it.
Well, it was interesting to see obviously some of the aftermath of that, which I'll get to in a bit. But when we see the Krill like looking at the stage play of Annie, the musical, and like they're probably thinking, what the fuck am I watching right now? Like,
dude,
they can't.
You know what my daughter's play was this year that I went and saw like just a month ago?
What's
Annie.
that? Just to go on a tangent here, but when Annie was first played by a black girl, I think in the remake movie version, people lost their shit over that. Because she was always played by some ginger with freckles, and now a black girl's playing her.
Actually, a black girl in my daughter's play was Annie. So she was cool. Tall. Like she wasn't short. She was a tall girl. Anyway.
Well, in this particular case, we have looks like somebody a mixed race actress, a biracial actress, and she's playing an alien as well. Those neckbeards must have been losing their shit just over that alone. But nevertheless, it was funny to see the Krill's reaction to Annie. And then when we got to have a good look at the Krill, they kind of reminded me of Trump supporters a little bit when Telia was talking to them and stuff like that, giving them that xenophobic angle that we don't need them, they need us, we're better than them, and all of that sort of stuff, And she was like really segregating the people out there. But then we came across fake news as well when we saw, which was interesting. Like people making up news stories that never happened, because like the other Krill leader, the one who ends up getting killed, he does come across as a little bit of an evil man, when it comes to his own citizens. But we realized all of that stuff was made up footage, which is kind of what lost him the election in the first place. So fake news. It was kind of funny. Anything to add, Cheetah?
No, I mean, I don't know if we're doing the play-by-play on this one. I figured we wouldn't, but I mean, just like I really feel like towards the end, again with the kid thing, like they're really hitting on all cylinders this week with everything. Seth MacFarlane's really knocking it out of the park, like with the revelation of his daughter and and with her and everything like that. And it's like, I don't know, man. Like I was just blown away by this week's Trek in Orville. Like blown away. Not even gonna lie.
I agree now. I can't remember what it was. Was it V back in the day? But like they had this scenario where like you had these two species at war, but there was obviously a biracial child in the mix who happens to be a bit of each species, and apparently that was going to end the war. And I'm thinking to myself that shit doesn't make any sense. Even if the Krill and the humans found out about this child, I don't think this child will somehow make people think to themselves, "Oh, there's a biracial child here. We should like human beings all of a sudden." I just don't think people think like that.
No,
you know what I mean?
I don't even think the Krill would think like the Krill would probably be worse. Like just the way they're portrayed in this episode. Like yes, there are some good Krill, like that want peace and want all these things, but it seems like there's just so many that are just like against intermingling with outside species that it's just I feel like it's kind of a lost cause. And this definitely reminds me of when Gul Dukat found out he had a Bajoran Cardassian daughter, and Gul Dukat went all in. Like he loved his daughter, and he actually turned his back on the Cardassian Union for a while. And it's like
she died, didn't she, as well?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah.
That's when he went crazy and he started doing like the whole Pa Wraith and the evil prophets thing, the fallen prophets. So yeah, I mean so that's why I'm like this episode, like obviously they're going to bring the daughter back and all this, and obviously not Talia, it's Taylor. I can't remember her name.
Taylor, I think.
Taylor. She's obviously going to be a reoccurring character when it comes to the Krill, which I'm glad, because the Krill needed a face, like Worf or General Martok for the Klingons, like Talia or Taylor or whatever can be like that face for the Krill, So I think they're really making good strides in defining themselves as a property, not property, like a franchise.
See what I liked about this episode as well is that people who make accusations have a chip on their shoulder, so to speak, are the ones usually with something to hide themselves. So here we have is Talia having this crusade against human beings, and all of that. But she herself has a half-human child. She spawned a half-human child, had intercourse with a human being. You know what I mean? And so it kind of goes to show that sometimes people who make accusations, they tend to be the ones actually giving out a confession. And with her obviously hating on human beings, it's probably a confession because she had something with a human being, which is why she's so going down this particular path. And even though I don't think maybe a lot of Krill would want to break bread with humans by finding out that there's a biracial kid, it would, in my opinion, if the Krill found out it belonged to Talia, then it would ruin her. You know what I mean? It would probably ruin her. I think there's some people who still stick with her because they drink the Kool-Aid. You can reveal anything about a particular person for them being hypocritical, and people will still stick with them, regardless. I mean, just look at Donald Trump, for instance. As a prime example. So you can pull out everything you can about him, and people will still stick with him regardless. So
you can pull anything out of, but not defending him, but I'm just saying, like, you can pull anything out about any of these politicians, and like people will follow these idiots until like
I don't want to go too much. I think there's more of a cult of personality on right wing politicians. Like the people worship fucking Donald Trump. No one worships Joe Biden. They just want him to be a good
there are people that worship Joe Biden.
Yeah, but would you put it in the same ratio as Donald Trump? Because I see people fucking thinking that he's the fucking second prophet. They call him Jesus. They think that he's like Jesus Christ type. There's a church for the motherfucker. You know what I mean? It's a whole different ball game. But I do think fanatics in general, they go all in. You know what I mean? And,
definitely that camp is more attuned to fanatics. You are correct.
Yeah.
For more fanatics type. I'm just talking about people drinking the Kool-Aid. Like drinking the Kool-Aid is I feel like drinking the Kool-Aid is more just like they go along with it. They have their beliefs and they're doing it. And then you're right. There's fanatics, which are like,
I mean, you just look at Biden's approval ratings. They're through the fucking floor, but he's a lousy president.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Trump's a lousy president, but he's worshipped so fucking much. They don't give a fuck.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's the difference right there. But anyway, I digress.
Hey, this is a politically charged episode, so I mean, it only dictates that we would go off politically every now and then.
I did like the fact that in parts of this episode too, we kind of got the Kelly Ed relationship. Now, I'm not saying that they should get back together again, but it can be brought up the odd time and make sense. Like she was. Like when Kelly had to basically take command of the Orville whilst Ed and everyone else was on the Krill planet, she didn't get flustered by some of the comments about her being, Ed's ex-wife and all of that sort of shit. She soldiered on and still took command and got the Orville out of there, got a fleet to come back and fight the Krill and all of that. So
I mean, she had proper Riker moments in this episode. Like you could tell that she was making the hard choices, but she had to because she had to protect the crew, and it wouldn't help Ed and the party down below if the Orville was dead, because nobody at Union Central would know what was going on. So, but I mean, she commanded the ship. She did it like a boss ass captain.
Yeah. The space, like the action scenes in this was remarkable. I mean, like
pew pews, baby, pews.
A lot of pew pews. I was kind of blown away by some of it. I'm thinking, wow, this is a good CGI fest we're getting right now, because when we kind of got a scene where we got Lamar and Dr. Finn rescuing our guys down on the Krill planet as they're being taken for execution. Like that chase scene when they're like driving through this sort of Blade Runner city on Krill was amazing,
Mm-hmm.
And they had Charlie, that's her name, and she was like a navigator, so she had to help find the ship when they lost their navigation control. So she had to do it on a whim, which was brilliant and stuff like that. And I was thinking to myself as well, how many people in the Union have died trying to save these guys, because there were ships blowing up all over the fucking place.
Well, I mean, it is the president of the Union, so like honestly, like I was thinking about that. I'm like, would they have had this kind of response if it was just Ed and party, like Captain Mercer and party? I don't know if like now the fact that there's an admiral and the president down there, and ambassadors from whatever
lady.
Yeah. Like I'm like I really feel like that aggressive of a response was because of that, not because they had Captain Mercer. I feel like if they had Captain Mercer, she would have Kelly would have Commander Kelly would have found a way to rescue them anyway. Obviously they did, because they did what was it, something 21, or not Agent 21. What was it was called?
It was Order 21.
Order 21.
Order 66.
Yeah. So I figured that, I mean, whatever that was, I knew was going to come into play by the end of the episode.
Order 21 was, what was it? It was them just going undercover.
I guess. I don't know. I honestly thought they were going to debut like a transporter technology.
Yeah, that's the one thing they don't have, is it? You know,
Yeah,
I
and
mean,
I don't mind them not having it because honestly, then it would be too much like Trek, and them not
mate,
having
it's already
trans.
it's already too much like
I know,
Trek. It's
or at least,
fucking.
or at the very least, like transporters can only do like non biological matter. You know what I mean? Like
I think the only thing is that they don't know what to call it without calling their transporter, because yeah, everything else is good. They don't have warp, they have quantum. They don't
instant
have a federate.
transmission, like Goku.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. They don't have a federation. They have a union. Like they're basically working. They're doing workarounds. Considering you're such a like an array of knowledge when it comes to all the Star Trek ships, were you able to figure out all the ships from the Orville? Was
The
that
only thing I've
Constitution
ever been
class
able
and all that bollocks?
No, the only thing they all look the same except for it seems like there are there's obviously fighters, there's shuttles, there's light craft, and then there's cruisers like the Orville. And I have seen, and I haven't gone back in this episode and looked, but in the battle with the Krill last season, or not the Krill, the
Halo.
Kalon, in the last season, there was a big ass heavy cruiser in there that was bigger than the Orville. So I feel like they're doing more of a military like scenario where it's like all their ships kind of look the same, but like they're definitely like different size. Like some are like cruisers, some are like heavy cruisers. You've got like your lighter ships, like your scouts and your destroyers. Like so, they've kind of got that little bit more of a military aspect where things look very uniform and the same, but like there's just different functions. Whereas in Star Trek, you've got like every different function has a completely different class of ship, and it looks completely different. So
I think we saw that cruiser ship as a hallucination in last week's episode, which was actually the Kalon, when that big ship, that
yeah,
big
it might have
invasion.
been. Yeah, it might have been. I'd have to go back and
Yeah,
look, but I think you might be right on that one.
yeah, for sure.
Because I think there was one that was like much bigger than the other two. And I think they
So
have like four. They have like four, whatever that visor is on the back. I mean, I want to call them nacelles, but they're not really nacelles because obviously that's Trek. But like whatever that visor across the back is, I think it had like four or something. I'd have
yeah,
to.
so we see Ed's daughter, and she's playing with like a triangle, a Rubik's triangle. Would you call Is that what you call it?
Yeah, kind of like that, I guess.
And she says she's really happy, but I'm thinking to myself, girl, you're stuck in a fucking room playing with this fucking toy all day. I'd go fucking mad. You know what I mean? Eventually that toy would go dry very quickly, and I'll need to do something else, like maybe step outside. But considering she looks so different to everyone else, I mean, her pigmentation is totally different. Um, she's more of a pink skinish, whilst everyone else is like Dulux white.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's gonna be interesting to see where they go with her. Ed did mention at the end of the episode that he doesn't think he'll ever see her again, but I doubt that. I think she'll come back for sure. Maybe not this season, but I do think we'll see her again. Because Ed's got a fucking daughter now. You can't just let that fly. And oh, what I was also thinking just now. Do you think we'll get spin-offs from the Orville?
I don't know yet. I mean, okay, so
it's early days, isn't it?
But it's season 3. I mean, the original series only lasted 3 seasons. Now I know TV is different back then as it is now, yes, but what do we want from it if it's something different? Like what do we want if we do something spin-off from the Orville? Because I've been thinking about this a lot, and I'm like, if they do another series based on the Orville universe, do we want just a different crew with a different type of ship, or do we want
like they can do their DS9 Orville for sure?
I honestly want like a president, like like the president, follow the president. Maybe not for. I mean, maybe.
I don't know. I know people like people like him. They're like it's gonna be hard. Like he's gonna have. He can't get in adventures every fucking week.
Yeah, but I mean, that's what I'm saying. Like, where do we go from? Like, but I've thought about it, and I'm kind of like, I mean, there's more of the military aspect of it. I mean, they do have a military, so it's like, do we do maybe more like a militaristic side? Because the Orville is an exploratory vessel, like they've said that it's an exploratory vessel, so it's like, you know, that's obviously like the Constitution class or the Galaxy class. You know, do we want to follow maybe fighter pilots? Like maybe have a carrier, like they debut this carrier type that's full of fighters, and then you follow the fighter pilots rather than like a command crew and everything like that. I would be 100% down for that. It's different, and it's also different from Trek, because Trek's never done anything like that except in one episode of TNG.
I think I think for now, what Orville needs to do is have like several seasons under its belt. You know, maybe 5 or 6 to really know. Okay, fine, we can maybe do this because of this, or do that because of that. You know, and then create a spin-off there. You know, it's hard to say at this particular moment in time, but eventually, once this particular show runs its course, I would still like to remain in this universe. You know, I love it. You know, I really do. To have another version of Star Trek, which is not Star Trek, is great. You know,
do they do movies if it gets popular enough? I mean, that's going right along with proper Trek, but it's like, I mean,
they can only do movies once they've got a lot of established lore set up. You know, and that takes a lot.
But keep in mind,
takes a lot from it. Yeah.
Star Trek. I mean, Star Trek only had 3 seasons under its belt before it did a motion picture. Like, and I get it. It's a different age, different. I get it, but at the same time, it's like, how much more lore? I mean, if they do some real big universe building in these next 2 seasons, like you were saying, like at season 5 or 6, like, do we get a movie?
Well, this episode kind of felt like Star Trek 6 to a degree. In certain aspects of it.
I agree with you 100%.
And regarding the movies, like 2, 3, and 4 is pretty much the Genesis trilogy. 4, not to an extent, but it does tie up, you know, them stealing the fucking Enterprise and all of that shit, and you know, so they had to face the music on all of that. So
it ties up the loose ends at the very end.
Yeah, so so they could try and do that, which is basically make a series out of films, you know, which is what Star Trek did. You know, when it went to the movies, you know, it was a series to a degree. Even Star Trek 6, it harkened back to what happened in Star Trek 3 when Kirk's son got killed. You know, I love seeing Kirk, you know, close to bigoted and stuff like that. You know, it was great, and in this particular diplomat kind of reminded me of the diplomat who got killed in Star Trek 6. These were like the people who were going to change things, but they ended up getting killed, and somebody who had a different opinion, wanted to keep the war going. I mean, the crew are pretty much like the Klingons, aren't they? They're like a mix of the Klingons and maybe the Cardassians. You know, would you say?
Yeah.
Yeah. I've always found the Cardassians and the Romulans to be very similar at the same time, by the way.
Well, I mean, that's why in DS9, the Obsidian Order and the Tal Shiar joined forces. They were the two pristine dark, like, shadow agencies in the Alpha and Beta quadrant. The problem is that, like, I always had an issue with Section 31 because it was like they kind of just came out of nowhere and then became this big thing, when it's like the Tal Shiar and the Obsidian Order were kind of established, and then Section 31. And I get it that every empire has their own, like, dark organization, so it doesn't surprise
Black Ops.
me. Yeah, it doesn't surprise me that Section 31 exists, but at the same time, they kind of made Section 31 seem like they were better than the Tal Shiar and the Obsidian Order, and I'm like, no. I really feel like that was not, like, we can't make the Federation look good at all angles, you know? Like, let the Cardassians and the Federation be good at the we should have seen the Tal Shiar and the Obsidian Order beating Section 31 at their own game. They really should have. You know, like, I not everything in the Federation can be the best.
I agree.
I mean, that gave me, like, America vibes from from the Federation in that aspect.
I totally agree. But just to round off with this particular episode, it was bittersweet. Like, when actually it was more bitter than sweet, because there was a lot of hopeful enthusiasm. They mentioned that at the tail end of this episode. Okay, it looked like we were going to make peace with the Krill, and we would have a better opportunity of fighting the Kalon when they come around. And then they realized that peace with the Krill and an alliance with the Krill wasn't going to happen, even though it is a little bit hopeful in the fact that there are people within the Krill community who still want to an alliance with the Union. It's not all one-sided. You do realize there are people who want to be with the Union, which is good to know.
Which
And
also harkens back to like unification in Star Trek: The Next
Yeah.
Generation, where Spock was trying to unify the Vulcan and Romulan people again.
Yeah.
So it's like, yeah, I mean, like, no, there's some good stuff here. That's why, I mean, there's some really good stuff in these episodes today.
But Taylor herself, she will definitely be a reoccurring villain. Watching her daughter play, if she's having to watch her daughter from a distance, she obviously did have feelings for Ed because she tried to save him. It was a bit funny when Ed was walking around, like, he's wearing that fucking cloak. I'm thinking to myself, please, that cloak, unless he covers his entire face, people are going to realize that he's not a Krill. And but it's still funny that he'd been walked away, then those people get shot, and he goes somewhere else, meets his daughter, and realizes that those people who were going to take him initially, who got shot, were the people who were going to let him get back on the ship. It's all very complicated, and so far, like, these episodes with Orville, like, they don't just not everything gets resolved happily. Like, I've noticed that, like, not everything is like a happy ending. Like what happened with that admiral a couple of episodes ago, and some of the ship members turning into those creatures, that never got resolved. This episode, there was no resolution. Even last week's episode, to a degree, when they find out about that alien and they were under a test. I mean, was there really a resolution to that? Exactly. So it's there's just there's just only the first episode to a degree, but even then it wasn't, like, because Charlie's no longer he still hates fucking Isaac. They didn't like just become friends after she saved his life. She still fucking hates him. So I like that. This is what I like about the Orville. Like, not everything is fucking sunshine and roses. They do their best, and not everything is wrapped up with a bow, and they can move on to the next adventure. It's just wrapped up, but just not tidily, and I like that about the Orville very much.
Mm-hmm. Well, and that also goes back to what I was saying earlier about it being serialized episodically, because they do. They have those like every episode adventures, but then they also serialize some of the overarching themes, but it's not in your face, so that it's like every episode is towards this one laser focused objective, like, to coin Discovery, the DME, or the or in season like the Red Angel, or like all this other stuff. It's like, or the Burn, like the Orville's really hit that serialized episodic storytelling really well. Lower Decks does it too, but they don't do it to the degree that Orville has done. Like, they do have a little bit of serialization, but mostly, since it's a comedy series, it's mostly episodic with a smidge of serialization. I think we're getting a little bit more serialization this season based on the theme of the season of Lower Decks. But anyway, I digress.
Well, and also one of the things I do like about the Orville, and is that it mixes it up. Like, this episode was a little bit of a Captain Ed episode to a degree. Just when he was meeting Tellier and stuff like that in his relationship, but a lot of the times we just get episodes which are crew centric, and I appreciate that too. It is we don't always, sometimes the crew itself as a unit is fun to watch them as a group having to resolve a problem, and it being mainly focused on one person at times. And I don't mind it being so far. I think only Dr. Finn has really had a centric episode, when her ex-husband became a fucking spider alien. But other than that, it's been quite crew centric in my opinion, and I like that. I really do. So, anyway, I think we've babbled on as much as we can about the Orville.
Yep.
Another good episode. I'm going to give this a. I think it dragged a little bit this episode. I don't know about you. It was fun, but I found it dragging a little bit here and there.
What's your mark?
I'm going to give
Put
it
a stamp
7.
on it.
7. The drag.
I'm giving it a 9. I thought it was really good. I really liked it a lot.
I mean, a 7 still is it's still like a positive mark and stuff like that. I don't think it was a good episode, but yeah, like there is like it's very hard for like sometimes like for certain shows to tread new ground. Like I feel like we've been here, done it, worn the t-shirt at times. We're definitely in Star Trek. Like diplomacy episodes are common fodder in Star Trek.
Yeah, so, but the way they turn the diplomacy on its head, and then they put like the personal connection between Captain Mercer and they knocked it out of the park this week.
Yeah, but we had that with Chakotay and that Cardassian woman, and they had a fucking baby. And I did remember.
It wasn't even his though.
All right. But
I get what you're saying.
And this I told you this resembles Star Trek 6 as well. Like I just feel like we're not breaking new ground necessarily, but it's still fun to watch if it's done right, which is why I gave it a 7. So.
No, I'm not saying 7's bad. I'm just saying for me personally, it was a 9. I mean, it was, as I said, I don't know. I mean, I don't feel like these episodes are dragging as much because I feel like they fill the time because these episodes Orville episodes are 15 minutes, like 15 to 12 minutes longer than like the Star Trek ones, because Star Trek ones are anywhere between 40 and 45. So the Orville's really putting a lot of time into the storytelling.
It's so funny because these episodes are filmed like they're supposed to have fucking commercial breaks. Have you noticed with some of the Face to Blacks and some of all that sort of stuff, you think, oh, they could fit a commercial break in here, but they don't because it's on fucking Disney Plus. So, but anyways, all right, mate. So we've spoken about this enough. Tomorrow we're going to be talking about The Boys, my personal favorite show on streaming sites. And it's going to be episode 6. And I'm not going to spoil it too much by saying that if you know about what this episode is supposed to be about and you've been following certain aspects of The Boys, then this could be a highly anticipated episode. So I can't wait to watch it tomorrow. And
I didn't watch last week's episode, so I might have to watch last week's episode and this week's episode just because I'm interested to see how this plays out. I'm very
You heard about it as well.
I've heard about this thing. I've heard about what this episode's about for years since they started The Boys. So, I mean, as I said, I've heard of it, and it's one of the most as a comic book reader, this is one of the most infamous moments in comic books, history.
Yeah, so, fair enough. So yeah, it'll be looking forward to that. And us within NerdTube have also started watching Umbrella Academy. Well, I'm going to get onto that tomorrow personally, but some of us have already started watching that. So yes, Daniel Vaughn, thank you very much. So keep an eye out for our review in the future for Umbrella Academy season 3. We'll be doing an entire season review, not an episode by episode. So keep an eye out for that. That'll be coming soon on NerdTube. As well as obviously fan films, we have the fan film reaction to Antilles coming out on the 25th, which is on Saturday. So keep an eye out for that too. Lots of stuff on NerdTube for you. Anyway, Cheeto, you got anything to add before we sign off?
Nope. Great week of sci-fi. Yeah. Well, I meant like Trek and space sci-fi wise. Marvel and Star Wars, but yeah, this has been a great day I'm gonna probably go back and watch these episodes again since now I might actually have time to do so. So
yeah, and if you're not watching Ms. Marvel, fucking watch it. That show's been review bombed and it's been criminally underrated.
Oh yeah, no, it's not bad. This week's episode of Ms. Marvel is not terrible. Like it's not the best out of all of them so far, but the show is not bad at all. I don't know where
it's so
they get
much heart. Yeah, there's so much heart in that show.
Yeah.
I mean, there's so much culture and heart and everything. people need to go out and watch that fucking show and stop listening to neckbeards who hate that show because it doesn't follow a particular. Me neither, but don't don't listen to those people because it doesn't follow a particular way of doing things. Formula that they like things to follow. The world is bigger than their fucking formula, and it's about time they realize that.
Listen, this is coming from the straight white guy from this pro. It's okay to watch things that do not look like us. Okay, it's okay, and it's okay to enjoy things that don't look like us. So neckbeards and racists and all of you out there, for fuck's sake, grow up.
Yeah, for sure. And it's good to know that there are many people who look like you who are enjoying the show. Those people are the minority, but unfortunately, minorities can be fucking loud.
Yeah.
And these motherfuckers are. Anyways, don't forget to like, share, subscribe to NerdTube, everyone. And we'll see you later. And may the force be with you. Bye.